I am Justin Steele, sitting here with my good friend Meg. What do you think about it?
I'm really glad we watched it. I know you and I watched this movie about 10 years ago, and I was a brand new mom then, and it really freaked me out. I had a lot of anxiety following it.
Sure.
Watching it today, I felt like I was able to absorb more of it, more of the character backstory and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed watching it
Now,
with
as
you.
far as the Terror goes, Meg is a wife, mother. She has a young son, very similar to Dee Wallace's character of Donna Trenton. Do you think that some of the anxiety you felt before, which was more based in just having a child, do you think now it's more you relate to Donna as a character, or when watching it, do you see how people might think she's kind of a hero, or what scared you about it this time as opposed to last time, or vice versa?
Okay.
What didn't scare you this time?
Well, yeah, I definitely related to her as being a mom, and um, being a mom kind of gives you this like extra layer of just anxiety all the time about wanting to protect your kids. And when we watched it the first time, that was really overwhelming for me. And now being more of a seasoned mom, I just relate to her, and that like when they're in the car and she's just doing everything she can, and I'm like, yeah, that's what you do.
Especially maybe in moments where, when they first made the movie, I've watched interviews where they wanted to cut out a scene where Donna is sitting there holding Tad, the police officer is being attacked, her son, who has been saved so far and protected by his mother, is screaming, I want my daddy. I want my daddy. And finally, she just kind of loses it and says, all right, I'll get your daddy. Do you think that would be a more normal reaction to be
Yes.
like,
I definitely had a reaction to that when we were watching it just now, and I just didn't say it. But yes, I was thinking, like, really?
kid, and you feel for the kid, he's going through this
I
horrible
mean, of
thing,
course, like, he
but
doesn't understand, but yeah, I mean, you want that recognition.
especially because I feel like mothers do kind of get taken for granted more so than fathers. I think fathers do, but I think we've been set up for the past hundreds of years where fathers go out to work, mothers stay home, so it's easier for a father to kind of pop in and out, and a mom does get taken for granted. I mean,
I feel like in movies too, it's like the dad is the hero, and like the dad saves the day, and like the mom is a lot of times, especially in horror films, like the damsel, and she was not a damsel. She did
and I
everything.
think Cujo itself is like, I don't know what the intent of Stephen King was or etc., but it sort of feels like they took all these horror tropes and themes and, the damsel in distress, she's, ultra feminine wearing a dress and high heel sling black shoes, and yet even though they do all of those, they sort of flip it on the head because none of the men do save Donna in the end. It is Donna that gets out of that
Right.
car, she faces Cujo, and I think that's really cool about this movie that normally even her fall, she ends up tripping and falling, but instead of that being the sort of, oh, there's the chick that fell, it's what kind of saves her in that moment because Cujo leaps on her and
And she
stabs
stabs
her with
him.
that knife. Yeah. Now, keeping with themes of moms and what they kind of have to go through, Cujo was released in 1983, and now we have the millennial moms, the term which you came up with. Not only you didn't come with millennial moms, but you came up with the idea to relate it to this. How do you think moms would react? One, there's the scene where Tad, played by Danny Pintauro, he leaves school, he comes into the car, and he's been hit by the head, and Donna kind of looks at it, and she's initially motherly concerned, but she is kind of like, okay, overdone with gone, let's be okay, there's no reason to cry. Do you think that that's true to life, as in, like, that's a motherly thing to do, but also in comparison, do you think that there are a lot of millennial moms now who might go overboard and take it too far?
100%. Um, yes, I did have a reaction to that as well when we were watching it, and I said that a mom now would immediately flip out her kid came home with a scrape on his head and there wasn't even a Band-Aid on it, she would have immediately called the school. The swings would be banned. Like, somebody would have been sued. And I think that there's a lot of pressure on moms today to, like, be like that because of, social media and everything, where you can compare yourself. Yes, exactly. And you get all of this crazy information from everywhere and you don't really know how to, like, shuffle through all of it. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on moms now to, like, be hypersensitive to things like that. But I don't think she had a bad reaction to it. I think everybody knows their kid, and she knew, like, that he was fine and not to make a big deal about it because that was just going to freak him out more.
More so. Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of moms fall into that trap these days.
And, and I agree. And I think that, some moms today might be pressured to feel overprotected or overprotective more so than not. But I thought you made a good point when watching the film about the situation, though, with the dad, in terms of, as far as maybe we have some problems that we've gotten into now of oversensitivity, etc. One thing, though, in the 80s, and I feel like it wasn't an oversight, but probably true to life, is the dad came and picked up the young boy, Danny, to Pintauro, Tad, at the day camp center. And literally he just comes and picks up the kid and takes him off without letting anybody know or anything like that.
Right, that's just probably maybe a script gaffe.
Sure.
Because that would never.
The movie itself, I've always felt, was a feminist piece in a horror film, as in Donna, played by the magnificent Dee Wallace, is a woman who is basically being pushed down, whether intentionally or not, by all the men in her life. She has her husband who takes her for granted. He loves her, but his job is more important to him right now than anything. He's dealing with a crisis. He's got to figure it out. She also has her son. Of course, the son needs his mother for life, nourishment, guidance, but it does sort of take away from her identity in terms of who is Donna as a woman other than a mother. You have Steve Kemp, played by the late great Christopher Stone, who is having an affair with Donna. She takes away a part of his manhood, or so he thinks, in rejecting him or ending the affair, and he seems like the type of guy that normally isn't used to. He's more the one who rejects as opposed to being rejected. So she has all these men in her life. We don't see her with any other women or female friends, except in the comparison, the sort of juxtaposition with her life and the Camber family. And you might see a little bit of a reflection on who she could be or become through Kailani Lee, who plays Charity Camber, the mother with the mechanic family. And she sees that reflected through Charity, who also has a son, Brett, who has a husband who is also the primary caregiver. However, he's less open and sensitive than Vic is, played by Daniel Hugh Kelly. And in doing so, Donna starts to reflect on her life, but her life is surrounded by men, and I feel like it ultimately becomes a story of a woman who has to deal with this rabid dog, which is the manifestation of all these masculine influences in her life. And ultimately, it becomes up to Donna to save not only her own life, but the life of her son. And she succeeds, and she becomes this sort of quiet, withdrawn housewife into this warrior woman, bloodied, dress torn, bandages, ready to fight on this 200-pound plus Saint Bernard, who is also a victim of tragic circumstances. And in the end, it becomes up to her to save herself. I just finished watching this with Meg, who is not the biggest horror movie fan. Now, Meg, watching this movie, do you agree or disagree that, Stephen King created in Donna sort of a feminist character who is, the center of the film, and a woman who has to fight all these odds?
Yes, definitely. And what you said before about how it transcends genres, I definitely see it less as a horror movie and more just, suspense, but yeah, feminist, finding your voice. I think it's a lot.
All coming up at the end where she's like, well, come on then. She's saying it to the dog, but herself, she's done with all the shit at this point.
Yeah, I think it's a really good analogy too to say that like the dog Cujo represents like the men in her life, like whether it's taking advantage of her or taking her for granted or just like needing her and not being able to give her what she needs back. And I think she'd had enough. And I think if we were to watch her life after that point, I think it would be different. I think she would be a different person. And I mean, they'd have to pay for therapy for their kid forever, but
sure. Do you think that Donna is a character of today, or are these issues that women still have to face today? Has it been slightly altered? Is it could this story be told today? Yes, maybe cell phones, but I've lost cell phone service in the country, or the batteries died. I was going to Cincinnati to visit a friend of ours, and my battery or the charger wasn't working, and realized I'm like 35 minutes still away. I don't know the area. I don't have her number memorized anymore, being the digital age of It's on my phone memory, and I'm like, I could be stuck here for a minute. So, I mean, the scenario itself, I think, could happen. But in general, as far as Donna as a woman of today, or is she a little bit more dated, do you think?
No, I think it holds up. I mean, I think especially we see like glimpses of her wanting to like recapture her identity. I think that's why she was having an affair in the first place. She wanted something that was just hers, something for herself. She wanted to be noticed. And
which isn't any more or less love to her husband or her kid, but she's got to love herself too, and sometimes you have to be selfish to love yourself.
Yeah, and I think she was just looking for something that would define her as an individual. And when that affair stopped doing that, she tried to break up with him, and then it just became one more asshole man.
One more man.
So no, I think it's completely realistic for then in the early 80s and for now in 2018. I think a lot of women find themselves in the same position that she's in, and I mean, not like specifically locked in a car, but
for sure.
In your life wanting more.
Locked in their house, locked in their little universe.
Yes, being locked in the car represents how a lot of women feel being trapped in their lives. Like a lot of women feel like they're trapped in their lives. And she saved her son and she saved herself. And I think from that, she will have gained the confidence to do something for herself.
She'll never doubt her own inner strength, or maybe take less for granted the simplicity of her life, but also have this extra layer of not taking for granted the life. Now, Louis Teague said when he created the film, what attracted him to the idea is that it's a story about the real fears that we have, or the fears we have in our lives that are imagined fears versus real fears. Vic is worried about his potential loss of a job. Donna is worried about her loss of self, but in the end,
the son is worried about the monsters in the closet.
Worried about the monsters in the closet, but then when an actual monster appears, it changes everything. It changes all their small worries, which aren't insignificant, but definitely smaller compared to a rabid dog about to tear you apart.
No, I think it probably puts a lot in perspective for both of them.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you need something like that to like snap you back in. And hopefully they can move forward from there. And
hopefully before that happens, before it gets snapped in, or when something like that does snap you back into perspective, hopefully it's not too late. Hopefully, they did survive. They got out of it. And some people aren't so lucky, and I definitely agree. With the film in general, would you say it's still a scary film?
Yes, it's scary.
Yeah, I noticed this. We watched Cujo about 10 years ago, and Meg had just given birth to her amazing son, and he was just born. She was just learning motherhood, so she was already anxiety plus the dealing with horror movies in general. Now, this time through, I noticed when we watched it, she was able to watch the whole film, keep her eyes on it, but for her this time it was a little harder to watch the scenes where Tad had struggled with his a seizure, having a seizure. Um, do you think that was the scary part, or is it still in general scary as
No,
a
I
movie?
think that is a scary for me, being like, feeling like you can't protect your child, feeling like there are things in this world that you can't protect your child from, which is a real fear. I mean, there
Yeah.
always are. And when we watched it the first time, I didn't, like you said, I was a brand new mom. It was all new to me. I didn't really know what I was doing yet. And it was scary thinking about, this little baby at home.
Yeah.
Watching it now and having a decade of motherhood under my belt, and you know that there are scary things in this world, and you know how to protect your child from what you can, and it's terrifying to be in a situation where you think you might not be able to protect your child. Also, the dog is scary.
Now, Meg is a big fan of reality television. She loves anything that's Bravo related, Real Housewives of New York, Beverly Hills, etc. Which one would you say is your favorite?
Right now, New York.
New
The
York?
season just ended. The reunion part one actually is tonight.
Okay.
And it was such a good season of New York. It was so good.
Well, speaking of that, because I was thinking New York, so I'm glad the following question's going to happen. But as far as Real Housewives of New York, and maybe Beverly Hills too, because those are the ones I thought of right away. But which Real Housewife of New York or Beverly Hills do you think would be able to survive an encounter with Cujo? If you had to choose from Bethany, Ramona, Kyle, Lisa Vanderpump, these are all mothers. They all, have
Okay.
different mothering techniques, etc. Do you think one would be more likely to survive over the other, or do you think, Ramona would just jump out of the car and start giving crazy eyes to the dog?
All right. Well, assuming like no cell phones and like no
Sure.
OnStar in our cars.
Right. That they'd even be driving their car.
Right. That there's no driver. They're not in a limo.
Based on personality type.
Okay. Hands down, Bethany.
Yeah, Bethany?
Yes. Yes. I think she's just the type of person who doesn't take no for an answer. If something needs to get done, she's going to find the way to do it. If there's an obstacle, she's going to find the way around it. And I mean, especially in a situation like this where she can't just throw money at the problem, I think she would, like, find it inside of herself, like she used to when we first saw her on the show, and she was just this scrappy little entrepreneur.
Sure, for sure.
And I think Bethany, of all people, would have it in her.
Who do you think would not do as well under
I
the
don't want to
situation?
say because I love her. Well, I don't think Ramona would do very well, but I think she'd make it. But of those four that you named, God, I don't want to say it, but I don't think Kyle would be very good in a crisis.
Oh, you don't think so? See, that's funny because I actually thought that Kyle had the most qualities of like Dee Wallace.
Really?
As far as like, doesn't seem like, right off the bat, like this heroic, warrior woman that's going to result, but neither was Donna. Donna
that's
was
true.
kind of the rest of the movie, the first half of the movie, she was kind of pinballed around by these different guys, and, not that Kyle is, but she is, I feel like, of the wives, a more traditional one, and which is funny because she did grow up in such a Beverly Hills life,
Yeah.
But I do think she seems, next to Bethany, who was growing up with more of a reality-based life, I feel like Kyle's been more grounded in reality, and I feel like Kyle is the type that would be like, oh shit, this is happening, god damn it, fuck, let's do it. Whereas I feel like Bethany too, I think Bethany would do a good job. I also think though Bethany would also be in there for the same amount of time. I think Kyle would go sooner, but I think Bethany would be in there for the same amount of time only because she would neurotically be thinking.
Oh, Bethany's brain wouldn't stop the whole time.
Like,
she might have a panic attack, but she'd save Bryn.
Yes. But she, and she did that. But yeah, no, Ramona, I think it could go any way. I think she would stay in that car being pissed off. I think she could get out of that car and kind of fling Cujo across the yard. I feel like, Ramona, you just don't know.
It's true, though.
Right? It would be a completely different scenario, whereas I feel like the rest of them, it would play out in a certain way. So I just kind of heard yesterday that The Hills is now being, there's a reboot of The Hills. What do you think about that, Meg?
I love The Hills so much.
I know you do.
I'm excited.
You know Elsie's not going to be a part of it, though.
Lauren, Kristen, and Brody are all not
Which
on
I think
it.
we knew Elsie wasn't going to be, you know.
Lauren would never do it.
Yeah.
I think she takes herself too seriously now.
Oh, yeah.
I think, well, she had said after reality television she had a hard time being taken seriously, like, in the field that she was in, and I don't think she would want to go backwards and go back to that. I think she's happy where she is. Kristen's in a contract with E, so she can't.
Okay.
And
I'll be honest, I enjoyed the first few seasons of The Hills. Lauren Elsie was the reason I kind of watched it, though. God help the rest, but Lauren was the reason I watched it. And so when she was kind of drifting out, I kind of drifted out too. And you watched it to the end, though, didn't you?
Yeah, but I watched Laguna Beach too, so I knew Kristen already from Laguna Beach.
Which kind of had to help.
I love them both for different reasons, but like I could never choose like a favorite. I love them both. I mean, are you watching Vera Cavallari on E?
No.
I love it.
Yeah.
I just love Kristen Cavallari.
Yeah. Well, so you'll be watching then, though, do you think, the reboot?
I'm sure I will, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then, so what are some concerts and stuff that you've gone to this summer? What is some of the concerts, and what's so far has been the one that left you feeling the most, oh, I'm so glad I went to see this show?
Okay, the one that the one that stands out in my mind most is definitely Dead and Company, the Grateful Dead, the touring members of the Grateful Dead plus John Mayer, and I'm a huge John Mayer fan. We'll just leave that there.
Is it because you think his body is a
wonderland? Oh my God. He speaks to my soul.
Yes.
And so I was definitely just going to see John Mayer because I like to see John Mayer. And I was with a bunch of people who were actual Grateful Dead fans. And it was just an experience unlike any other. It was at Blossom in Cuyahoga Falls, which I don't really like going to Blossom because the parking lot is horrible, and just I feel like the crowd, the people who go to Blossom are never there for the show. They're just there for like the festival atmosphere because it does have that kind of atmosphere. It's humongous. And
it is huge. I mean, the walk alone is like, it's like a 20-minute walk. It feels like they're going on forever.
And then, I mean, even like behind the lawn, there's like all those like pavilions and restaurants and stuff, and like the woods. It's enormous. So I never feel like fully in it when I'm at a concert at Blossom. There's always distractions, but every single person who was there for the show and like loving it, and it was amazing. Like, I'm so glad I went. Like, it was incredible, and I really enjoyed it. I'm a Deadhead now.
What other concerts have you been to so far this year?
I saw Taylor Swift this year.
Okay, how was that?
Oh, it was really good. I mean, my niece and I went. She's 22. It's not like I took a child. And
was she feeling 22?
Oh, definitely. And at the beginning, we were like kind of like laughing at ourselves for being at Taylor Swift, but by the end, we were like, this is our girl forever. Like, it was great. She really put on an amazing show. She's just nonstop.
Good.
So I really liked that. I saw Radiohead for the second time.
Oh, how was that?
I mean, I'm not like a crazy big fan of Radiohead, but they put on such an amazing show that it's so visually stimulating, and just their songs like lend themselves well to like a live venue.
Yeah, I had never I've never seen Radiohead live, and I still only kind of know on the surface stuff. One of our friends got me into Radiohead, but every time I've always heard it, it's been in a situation that almost feels kind of magical, for less of like a technological magic scenario.
Yeah, it kind of is like that. And I would say people who go to Radiohead are similar to like. It was similar to like the Dead and Company show, because that was my other favorite experience at Blossom. Actually, the first time I saw them, like everybody was there for Radiohead. Like It was.
Well, I'm excited because
crowd.
Tom York is doing the music for Suspiria, upcoming horror movie that I'm super excited about. It's a remake of the original. The original's crazy, Dario Argento. It's all about the visual and stuff, but the music plays a significant part. You know, Dario Argento is not so much about telling a ABC beginning, middle, end story. It's more about the visuals and what it makes you feel, and the music is a large part of that. So with the new direction and everything that they're taking it seems like they're doing a different color palette, but also the music though. I don't know. When I heard that Tom York was doing it, I'm like, oh, this makes sense,
Yeah, it
you
seems like it
know,
would be a
and
good project for him.
I
He's
think it's
coming to
exciting.
Cleveland solo in October and
Oh,
November
is he
too.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, so
I'm
he does.
interested.
I'll be honest, I don't know much about Radiohead, but he does solo. Then
I
he
mean,
just kind of comes in and out.
I guess I don't really know much about like his solo career,
Sure.
but
That's good
I'm
to know.
probably gonna get asked to go to that.
Nice, very nice. And then what else? I know you've seen more.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. Jimmy Buffett,
Okay.
our good friend's husband, and I went to see Jimmy Buffett, and it was his first time. That's just amazing. Again, that's like the type of crowd who are like,
That's
they're
the best
there.
when everybody's
Yes.
there on the same sort of energy.
The crowd at Jimmy Buffett is just amazing. Like everyone is family, everyone is there together. It was really, and I mean, I was raised on Jimmy Buffett. Like, I remember being like very young on road trips with my parents, like knowing every word to every song and not inappropriate at all.
Yeah, for sure. We grew up with a lot of country and twang, so you know it's always in the background. But Jimmy Buffett, I feel like it was always at any festival we'd go to growing up or something. There'd be Cheeseburger in Paradise playing in the background. So tell me about yourself. As far as pop culture goes, what is the last movie you saw in the theater?
Oh, it was The Meg.
And what are some of your favorite movies of all time?
Favorite movies of all time. Okay, well, you know what I'm going to say first. Almost Famous.
I was hoping. We haven't talked about it in a long time, but I was
I know
hoping
we
that was still
haven't.
one of your favorites.
For sure. I actually haven't watched it in a long time either.
It's probably last time with you was the last time I watched it.
No.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You gotta watch it.
Mm.
When you go a while without watching it, I mean, we used to watch it all the time. I used to watch it like every day to go to sleep. If you go a while without watching it, and then you get to revisit it, and it's like...
A little magic all over
again.
again.
It's good
because
nostalgia.
I feel like my aura is less purple now and more magenta, so I need to get
Oh,
it back
no.
to a nice solid purple. Okay, well, and then so in general, I know the concerts we talked about, but what music are you digging right now this week?
Oh, this week. Well, I actually just found out that Pete Yorn is coming to Cleveland. Do you know who that is?
I do not know who
All right,
this is. Sorry, Pete
it's
Yorn.
okay. He is a singer-songwriter. I've been into him since the early 2000s, and I've never seen him live just because it's either been too far to drive or I didn't have the money or it wasn't on my radar. But he is coming to Cleveland in October, and I'm definitely going. So
What are some songs you like by him?
Closet is a good one. Strange Condition. Actually, that would be the one that you've probably heard of. It's on
Strange Condition.
It's on the Me, Myself, and Irene soundtrack.
Okay,
if that
okay.
helps at all.
So he's been around for a while.
Oh yeah, he's been around since the late 90s, I think.
Okay.
So I was listening to him on the way here because I'm super excited that I finally got to go see him.
Nice.
This summer I really got into Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
Okay, I'll
and I
check
got
him
to
out.
see them at Nautica, my favorite venue.
I love Nautica. I haven't seen anything in Nautica in a while.
Oh,
so he's
it's my
the Q or
favorite.
anything.
Oh,
and
I know.
Which is fun, but it's so big. Nautica's big enough and small enough.
And
it's
just the most beautiful
you're right on the water and
backdrop
everything,
to see a show in the summer. It's wonderful. They were there with The Head and the Heart. And Laura and I saw them. That kicked off my summer concert tour.
Nice.
So yeah, they're awesome. They're like kind of like bluesy rock. It's kind of like what I wish Dave Matthews Band would have eventually become and then didn't.
No.
So I'm really digging Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
And what is the last book you've read?
The last book I think I finished was called A Million Little Things by James Fry. And it's a pretty old book, but it's a true story of a man who is battling addiction and his story of his time in rehab. And it's close to my heart because I have a lot of family members who have dealt with that, and so it was hard to read at times. And I know there's been some controversy about this book because he embellished a lot, and Oprah took him out of the book club because of it.
Oh, I have heard about this. Okay. Yeah.
And my copy of it has like a forward, like
Disclaimer.
explaining, like, yes, this is embellished, but this is what happened to me. But it was really good. It reads just kind of like a stream of consciousness essay. Like there are chapters, but it's just there's no like paragraphs. It just like is him kind of
I
rambling.
enjoy that kind of setup. So sometimes it's hard, sometimes it doesn't take too much out of the story, but in general I do like moments like that. I feel like
for this book it really worked just because it was him talking about his experiences, and he was kind of all over the place at the time. Anyway, I really liked it. Nice. Thought it was a really good representation of what addicts go through.
And before we say goodbye, I like to try and end with a little bit of something that we hope for the world right now. Is there anything you kind of hope for the world watching out there just to make things a little bit better?
Oh, man.
The condensed, I guess we could go on and on and on. You know, I just hope for a little less hate out there.
All right. Yeah. That we could be more tolerant of each other just in everyday life. Just, you never know what someone else is going through. And just try to give people the benefit of the doubt and vote.
Yes.
Vote in your midterm elections. Vote in your national elections. Vote whenever you have the chance to vote.
And I think, you know, relating that to Cujo and the story of you never know what's going on inside somebody. Watching Donna, she's quiet the first half of the movie, and she's going through our struggle, and sometimes we don't, you know, we become so part of the central figure of our own universes, we don't always realize that other people are going through something.
Yeah.
Whether it's a big deal to you or not, it's a big deal to them, and so a little bit more compassion, understanding in the world.
I feel it.
Thank you, Meg, so much for doing this with me, for being here tonight. Meg, the ultimate Real Housewife of the Cleveland area. Wish you all well.